by angels and cherubims and flaming swords after Adam had fallen, proverbially fallen, and ended up in a realm of corruption where we find ourselves in, of DNA and death and decay. They also tell these souls, create other souls as we have created you, and send them into lower realms as we created you and sent you into a lower realm. And they have these souls work in the higher astral, subtle planes of this earth in groups. And they are taught that this is how you evolve. Create incarnations out of the unified essence of all things. Send them down into bodies of DNA. And then when they're done, present yourself as their higher self and as the higher self they are within duality, and become one with them. And eventually they are taught in turn, these other souls are taught that eventually they will become one with the oversouls. In addition to the lie that you are not created as they are and that we are not angels, other half-truths that they have presented in order to perpetuate this paradigm that brings them experiences they don't have to do themselves, is they'll say again, I am your higher self within time and space. I have brought this up so many times, but this is important to know. Remember that within duality, when you are brought from the unified essence, there is only one higher self, and it is the self that is shared and flows through all things. There is no other soul within duality that is your higher self. And that is what they tell us in order for us to merge our experiences into their memories. They will say again, become one with me, and you will experience a state of nirvana, samadhi, or oneness with the Father, depending on the type of culture that you've been raised in. If you're Buddhist, Buddhists are taught, and they have been taught for millions of years, or thousands of years, I should say, that eventually our goal is to complete a cycle of incarnations, and then return to a state of nirvana. Now, the state of nirvana is the state of the one primal self, the essence that flows through all things. That is the state you were in before you were brought into duality. See, the essence that flows through all things is the deathless self. And that is who you have always been beyond time and space, and always will be, even while you're within time and space. The state of nirvana, they want you to give them your memories of all of either your one incarnation that you've experienced or the collective incarnations that you have been encouraged to continue in the higher realms by creating other parts of the self to incarnate for you. They want to have those memories. So they encourage you to merge eventually into oneness with one of these oversouls. And it's usually the oversoul that created you. I have shared this in other videos, but I have a soul that presents himself in time and space as my, quote, higher self. He is the soul that created me and brought me into duality right before this incarnation and binding to the DNA embodiment I experience myself as now. He's the one who did this, and he calls himself David. David was created by one of the 72 who calls herself Ben. She is one of the 72 fallen angels. Who's in the matriarch, who formed the matrix of the higher selves and put themselves at the pinnacle of the matrix. Now, David was created over 3,000 years ago. He had one incarnation, and then after that, he returns to the higher realms of the earth. The astral plane works in groups now, and is told now that he must create other incarnations out of the self. And he, during this whole time, while I am incarnated here, as I've mentioned in other videos, he is doing and acting for himself in higher planes. I am not him within time and space. Yet when this incarnation is done, he wants me to give these memories to him. But he did not create them personally. And that is the whole entire system of using the essence that flows through all things, giving it perceptions that you don't want firsthand but have the knowledge of. And this is the cycle of reincarnations that's been going on and perpetuated within the higher planes of the astral, this earth, guided by these 72. They will tell you to return to a state of nirvana. Now, that does happen after you merge with one of those oversouls that present themselves as oversouls and higher selves. They're not, again, I have to say that again. But once you merge your consciousness with them, all of your experiences and memories are given to them as their second-hand only memories and experiences. Not their first-hand, because they never created them. You did. But now they have the knowledge and the memory of them, and they consider it to be, now these are my experiences. Of course, they never created them. You did. But your sense of self never dies, and that is a truth. Once you end your ability to forever act for yourself within time and space, and you merge with another soul within time and space, all of your knowledge and memories are given to that soul as its second-hand knowledge and second-hand experiences. And your sense of self then shifts from out of duality back into the primal essence that flows through all things. So this is a truth. You merge with them, you will return to a state of nirvana, a state of oneness, eternal peace as the primal self. But what they don't tell you is that when you do return to this state of nirvana, this state of knowing yourself as that which flows through all things as the unified field, you will forever, as that one self, not be able to act for yourself within time and space. And you will always receive, as that one self, all of the suffering and perceptions of these realms that continue to exist within the self. As the one, you receive everything that is brought to you within time and space and duality. And this is what they are bringing you. So in this life, in this brief incarnation, where you exist within time and space and have a beginning, and they end it with merging with them, you have been given perceptions of suffering and death. And then when you return to a state of nirvana by merging with them and giving them all your memories, now you know they don't return to that state. They continue to act for themselves. The 72 will never merge with other souls. They wouldn't want to do that. They want to have everlasting life within time and space, which is what a soul should have. But when you do that, then your consciousness of sense of self will shift to a state of nirvana, or what the Hindus call, the yogis call samadhi, oneness with everything. You will know yourself as that which flows through all things, and you will continue to receive perceptions of suffering and pain that these 72 bring you through this paradigm, even in that deathless state as the one. The one has been receiving these perceptions for billions of years because of it. And that was who you were before you entered duality. You were the one. So in either way, you were going to receive suffering. But in the state of nirvana, as the Buddha taught, all life is suffering. Accept it. Nirvana is peace, an acceptance of the self as just being perceptions of suffering. It does not have to be perceptions of suffering. It is perceptions of suffering because they created these realms, and they have set up this paradigm. And that is what they are giving to the one self. In Christian terminology, they say you'll be one with the Father. They say there is no death, and they are correct. Merge with me, there is no death. Once you do, you will know yourself as the primal self that flows through all things. And again, as I've said before, that is true. You will shift to the other side of the coin, the proverbial coin. You will shift out of duality and into the state of the unified field, the one self. But you still will receive all of the perceptions of suffering that are happening within you, within all of time and space that flows through all things because of this paradigm. So there is no death. That is a truth. But there is a death of you within time and space. Not a death of the essence that makes you up as the primal self, that which you shift to, but there is a death to you as a soul within time and space, because you can no longer act for yourself, ever. And this is not in harmony with the macrocosm. There is no part of the macrocosmic deathless self that ever ends in its evolution of becoming. And as a microcosm, you are a microcosm of that within time and space. There should never be a point in your soul's existence where you end your state of evolving and becoming. And that began right before you were created and brought to this incarnation. And it should not be taken away from you. The 72 angels that are placed themselves on the hierarchy of matrix of oversouls over this world, they never experienced that. Yet you do. And there should be no part of the macrocosm within time and space that is not in harmony with the same behavior as the macrocosm. All souls should be microcosmic images of the macrocosm. The macrocosm never ceases evolving beyond